Mitch McConnell, to no surprise, is doing his very best to stand in the way of the left finding its modern-day FDR.
Mitch McConnell's also doing his best to stay alive right now.
He is. And both of those things tie together when we talk about this little story that we have this week. This week, it came out, I think, somebody broke the news that RFK's personal lawyer that he had when he was running for his campaign petitioned the FDA to get rid of the polio vaccine.
Yeah, I did see that. That's wicked.
That's gas. And Mitch McConnell said, how dare you be associated with this? He's trying. Our RFK, former Democrat, is trying to get polio back out there so we can have another FDR.
You know, FDR was humbled by his polio.
He was.
And we're not going to get another FDR-style candidate unless somebody that knew the highest heights is humbled to the lowest lows.
Modern medicine has completely eradicated polio, and look what the Democratic Party has become as a result.
We've criticized RFK so much, but really he's playing the long game.
He's sleeper agent.
He's playing the long game and trying to create the conditions necessary for another FDR.
Exactly. There was a Florida state legislator that was just recently elected, elected as a Democrat, that switched to a Republican. Basically, like as soon as it was official that she got power. So that's great. But that's what RFK is doing.
Yeah, exactly.
We've been saying we need that kind of energy on the left, and here we are. Yeah. It's been right under our nose.
Yeah, he might have a lot of other problematic beliefs. He might think that maybe COVID was not biologically engineered to avoid Chinese people and Ashkenazi Jews, but like, you know, who among us, right?
You know, maybe modern medicine and all its advancements and almost completely eradicating polio, functionally eradicating polio and other just easily avoidable diseases. Maybe that's what stopped us from really coming in hot. Mm-hmm. You know, it could be, and Mitch McConnell says he's standing in the way. I do think it's interesting that this is the one issue that Mitch McConnell is finally deciding to maybe put his foot down on, and that could be the reason why we don't get RFK, because he's associated with this. Maybe he'll pull some strings in the Senate to not get him confirmed, but I highly doubt it.
Yeah, and if RFK does get confirmed, first of all, I'll remind you, get up to date on your vaccines if you haven't already. I feel like most people probably have the polio vaccine. It's required, isn't it?
I think so,
for public school. Besides that, you know, check out, make sure you got all your other vaccines before he gets his hands on them. Because I think what he's going to try to do is at first take it off the requirement list for public schools.
That's what he's explicitly saying. He's gone out there and said, we're not trying to take it away from anybody. However, we want to make sure the science behind it is sound.
Yeah, and then it's slowly more and more going to become impossible to find on the market after it's not required.
It's kind of like pro-lifers and like abortion, right? He's out there and he's saying right now, while it is completely and totally not popular to get rid of the polio vaccine, saying, oh, we're not trying to take it away from you. We just want to give parents the choice.
We want to put it back in the hands of the states.
we just want to give parents the choice to choose whether or not it is, and then we want to do investigations into its safety. I think the investigation into polio vaccine safety has been, I don't know, the 100 years that it's been around. And the almost eradication of polio. Like, I don't know. I think we're pretty good there. I don't think we've seen real negative side effects because of that.
It's like, even if you could point to some negative side effects here and there, I think polio might be worse.
I think so too.
You know what I mean?
I absolutely think so too. And it's funny that he goes in there and he's like, yeah, we want to look at the science behind it, but we don't want to take your choice away. Because that means I, as the head of HHS, who runs the CDC, the FDA, and the NIH,
thank you for the reminder.
want to direct funds and, I don't know, orchestrate studies to look at this vaccine, and then, I don't know, put out bullshit that says it's not safe, and then use that as a justification to eventually take it off the market. It's crazy. And it's also just so insane to be like, I want parents to be able to choose whether or not we make polio more accessible.
Yeah.
What the fuck do you mean?
That's crazy.
There's a responsibility that citizens have when they live in a society to do things that benefit that society. Sometimes there are consequences that are associated with abdicating those responsibilities. The consequences here for not getting your fucking vaccines are not being able to go to public school because you make it less safe for the public.
Yeah, it's like you ultimately sacrifice some freedoms when you live in a society with other people.
Yeah.
You can't do literally anything. And one of the things that you are compelled to do by nature of living with other people is not getting everyone else sick.
Exactly, not making kids paralyzed for like ever.
that feels like I think it's good when humanity moves forward.
I do too.
And we leave behind things that we know we can prevent through the scientific method.
Modern medicine has been pretty cool and good. And maybe Mitch McConnell will stop its decay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Apparently Mitch McConnell had polio when he was younger, so this one hit homes for him.
I also saw a quote somewhere where he was like, the last time they said America first was like during the Nazis, and it's like,
Shit. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I wonder if the Grim Reaper came to his bed or something.
I don't know.
Like his life's flashing before his eyes, or he's finally learning to have some regrets. I don't know what's going on with Mitch McConnell, but
well, it is the Christmas season.
So true. It's hard to overstate how much RFK and all of his supporters are a death cult.
Yeah.
Because, it's funny to laugh about how he makes up conspiracy theories and the crazy things he said about COVID and all that kind of stuff. But this does just mean like mass death. This is a pro-death position to hold.
It's not fun. And I think he has his own like anti-vax nonprofit.
Oh,
and
cool.
we want to put this guy again at the head of the CDC, the FDA, and the NIH.
Yeah. And I think he was also responsible for spreading conspiracy theories about maybe the measles vaccine in American Samoa. I can't remember exactly what vaccine it was. And
I wouldn't
then
be surprised.
The conspiracies that he spread, telling people basically don't get your kid immunized with this vaccine. A bunch of people died because of it.
Oh.
And that's basically attributed to him lying to people about it.
And that's what we have to look forward to as we enter the new year.
Yeah, scale that up to 330 million people, and you can imagine what happens. So, bleak. Yeah. Very bleak.
And maybe Mitch McConnell could obstruct this and, I don't know, go out with like a good one on his record, you know?
Maybe. It's not going to get him into heaven, but maybe a little bit less torture while he's in hell.
Yeah, maybe we could stop RFK and Pete and, I don't know, let the other ones go through. I think I'd take that trade.
Yeah, RFK is like uniquely crazy.
Yeah.
For this role. Like Pete Hegseth, he's pretty bad. Trump will find some other demon to go run the DOD. You know what I mean? But RFK at HHS is uniquely bad.
Yeah.
So I think putting like a regular conservative in is still not going to be good, but it's not RFK Jr.
And it's also like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, I feel like HHS should be headed by a scientist, not a lawyer.
I mean, that's reasonable, right?
I don't know. I feel like that's something that I could put out there, and it's a reasonable assumption.
Well, yeah,
to think that the guy who handles science should be a scientist.
RFK has his background in environmental law, I think. But he's got, of course, all kinds of quack theories. You don't have to be consistent.
And then he's got
like
other lawyers underneath him who are also not scientists who petition the FDA to get rid of the polio vaccine. The FDA, which if he heads, he could step into the review process and, get it off.
And the thing about modern research, which is something we really saw during like the peak of COVID conspiracy, is you can find anyone with an MD to say anything in front of a camera.
Yep.
And that immediately provides them with a sense of legitimacy and authority. And if it's someone like RFK in the position of Secretary of HHS, platforming those people, that's going to be a really big deal. Because, 99% of the scientific community could say otherwise, but if he's platforming that one person that's saying, I don't know, the polio vaccine puts demons in your soul or something, then that's the person that's going to get listened to. Yeah. And that's uniquely bad.
Half the country's going to listen to that.
Yes.
We got good times coming, folks.
Yeah, get up to date on your shots quickly.
Make sure you get your Hep B shot before it's off the market.
Yeah, before the common cold makes a return. Welcome back to Head in the Office, everybody. We come to you halfway through December to bring you another banger.
We got to
talk about pardons today. We got quite the story with pardons that we'll get into in a little bit here. We got to talk about Trump being Times Person of the Year.
Yep.
We got an update on trans rights. Spoiler, not good. Really not good.
Yeah.
And we got quite the show prepared. So I hope you're all ready for it. But of course, before we get into that show, got to remind you all to become a patron.
Please.
Get early access to all of our content. We just had episode 2 of People of Interest drop over on our Patreon. It'll be coming out later this week after this episode airs for everybody else. But if you want early access to that,
and it's a good one, folks.
Yeah, it's on the Patreon.
Great interview with Andre Dutra TV.
And it also has to do with FDR and polio.
It does.
We need RFK to give us FDR.
RFK to get in here so we can have a populist Democrat step up.
Absolutely. Make sure to also check out some merch at headintheoffice.com. Still time to get in for your holiday orders if you're looking to surprise a fellow Hit-O-Head with a gift.
That'd be pretty cool.
Now's the time to do it.
If you're looking to pester your significant other for a gift to get you, this is the one, folks.
And if you want to give yourself a gift, the gift of media literacy, there's still time to get in on the 50% off deal with Ground News.
It's a good program.
Use our link, you support the show, and you also get 50% off Ground News for the year. That's half off. That deal is not going to last forever. It is a holiday deal, so get in now while you can. Ground News, genuinely a great tool.
For a full year of Ground News?
Full year of Ground News. It's a cool tool. I like it.
It is. I hop on there like every week when I'm trying to find news.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Also, of course, follow us on our socials. That's always very important. Join the Discord. We're almost to 1,000. We might be at 1,000 by the time you're listening to this.
That'd be pretty crazy. But yeah, I'd like to emphasize how especially important it is to follow us on our other socials, because most of you came from TikTok, considering that in like a month on the dot almost, TikTok's gone, folks.
That sucks.
Or I guess it's not gone, but at least it's without support, and eventually it will just break.
I'm hoping my favorite conservative body that is against government overreach in all kinds, the Supreme Court, is willing to put a stay on the enforcement of that law.
I hope so. I did see that a TikTok petitioned for like an injunction on the law while they wait for their petition to the Supreme Court, and it got denied. So
okay, well, maybe not.
So
then.
While the Supreme Court is busy arguing whether or not being trans is an immutable characteristic, I don't know if they're going to have time to pick up the TikTok ban. So that sucks.
Yeah, so make sure to follow us on other socials and get plugged into the Discord. We're doing lots of fun stuff over there, especially as we get into the holiday season and then the new year.
And the new year, 2025, folks, it's gonna be one. Yeah. It's gonna be a year for the history books with Trump's second inauguration.
There's gonna be lots happening, lots to talk about, of course. Before we get into our Apple reviews, which of course is another way you can support the show, I will tell you all that the nomination form for the 2024 Hito Award show is now open. This is the form where you can nominate people, stories, headlines, different things that happen throughout the year for the various categories. Voting will open a week from today, which for us is Sunday, December 15th. Yeah. So if you want to nominate a moment from this year for one of our prestigious categories, get in and do it before the form closes. Links in the description. If you're listening on Patreon, we'll make sure we post it on Patreon as well.
Boy, were there a lot of moments this year.
Oh, my God.
The moments. Lots that you can think of. Try not to think too much of recency bias. Try to go back at the beginning of the year, because there's some good stuff there too, folks.
There were some bangers spread throughout the year. I think the bracket that we usually do, we do a bracket every year. That might be a election cycle special.
Got to.
Because there's just so many moments from the election that we could rank.
Exactly. There are centuries where seconds happen, and there are, Hito episodes where everything happens.
Nothing ever happens.
Nothing ever happens.
Anyways, of course, as I said, one great way to support the show is by leaving a 5-star review on Apple. We got just one today.
What the fuck, guys?
A meager one.
It's the Christmas season. It's the spirit of giving is, I don't know, fucking throughout the Christmas where it doesn't snow anymore. And here you are not showing up.
It's like 40 degrees today.
We've been here for 180 weeks. And
that's crazy.
In a row.
Uninterrupted weeks.
And you guys can't even show up for us.
Yeah.
Every so often, just nothing. Just nothing or just one.
We always show up for you.
Exactly.
And yet only one of you shows up for us this week?
What the fuck? How many? There are thousands of you. And this is where we are. Left me beaten, battered, and bruised on the sidewalk. I feel like Tiny Tim in the Mickey Mouse Christmas Carol, where Mickey Mouse, to demonstrate how fucking poor they are because Scrooge McDuck is bleeding them dry, is cutting up that slice of bread, and it's that thin, transparent piece of bread that Tiny Tim gets to eat. That's what I feel like right now.
That's us.
That's us, guys. What the fuck?
We are the downtrodden, but
wait till you get visited this week by the Christmas spirits.
Our one very thin slice of bread this week comes in the form of this one review from Yeet123445678. Favorite pod. They say, first off, I can dump him in all political violence.
Hopefully it's your conservative boyfriend.
I condemn Hamas and all political. I don't know what this. They left out Hamas, so I have to assume.
Okay.
They don't condemn Hamas, which is very problematic.
Especially in times like this.
Unfortunately, I currently stand as a Wednesday weenie, but I hopefully will upgrade to Sunday supremacist. These guys truly make my day whenever I see that they've dropped a new episode. These two keep me up to date on the happenings in geopolitics. Love the pod. Keep it up. We love you.
We do love you.
Thank you for being the one person to stop as we beg on the street
so much
with our hands up, asking for anything to help us get by.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Thank you for that review. So getting into the news here.
Yeah, we talked about Trump's inauguration coming up. But before we have Trump's inauguration, we still somehow surprisingly have the end of Biden's term.
We have a president right now.
And boy, is he really making the end of his term just something.
Yeah. So we talked last week about how, or was it 2 weeks ago? No, last week. It was last week's episode about how he pardoned Hunter Biden, his son.
Yep.
Blanket pardon for 11 years of time.
Wicked.
Which is... We gave you our criticisms. We knew he was going to pardon Hunter eventually. We not so angry at the pardon itself as like the way in which he did it. You know what I mean? Whatever.
And you know, maybe he heard the criticism that like, oh, he's going to pardon his son, but not like other people who are stuck in there for like nonviolent drug offenses.
Yeah, and totally valid. We also talked about how he shouldn't pardon Liz Cheney.
Yeah.
Throw her to the wolves. Who cares? But then shortly after we dropped that episode for patrons, Biden fired off a bunch of new pardons and commutations, mostly commutations.
Yeah.
And there's some things to like here.
There are some things to like. I think broadly what the like idea behind this like mass clemency, as the media is talking about, because it I think was the largest single day act of clemency in like either modern history or just ever.
That's right.
He gave clemency to I think 15,000 people and dished out like 39 pardons. Most of these the idea was anybody who had been let out of prison as a result of the CARES Act, which was to avoid overcrowding in prisons during the pandemic, who was let out on like a non-violent offense and like, I don't know, showed remorse or some shit, was given clemency here.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of a broad just category of people, and if you fulfilled these conditions, you got it.
A lot of people were on like house arrest since COVID.
Yeah. And there are a lot of these are good. A lot of these are good. Broadly, this is probably a good thing, right? We got a lot of people who are out, like drug offenses when they were young, nonviolent drug offenses, and shit like that now have like, I don't know, don't have to do prison anymore, or I guess have cleaner records when we look at these pardons. But some of these folks really slipped through the cracks. And I mean, some of these folks, if you looked at them and you were given clemency on an individual basis, you would say, not this guy, absolutely not this guy.
Yeah.
And they got through.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, with the cases we're about to talk about, again, these are people who had sentences commuted by Joe Biden.
Yep.
These people met the criteria of having been let out of prison because of the COVID restrictions, because prisons are a bad place to be for COVID.
And nonviolent.
And they're nonviolent. But the easy thing you could have done within your signing document of this commutation authorization is just say, unless they were convicted of corruption charges, because this is what's important here. This is what's really important here. As a part of this large batch of commutations, Joe Biden pardoned this judge from Pennsylvania named Michael Conahan, and I'm going to read you a quote from CNN. Former Pennsylvania Judge Michael Conahan was convicted in 2011 in what was infamously called the Kids for Cash scandal, where he took kickbacks from for-profit detention centers in exchange for wrongly sending juveniles to their facilities. The case was widely considered to be one of the worst judicial scandals in Pennsylvania history. This guy just got a commutation from Joe Biden.
If your name is associated with something called Kids for Cash, you should be behind bars for the rest of your life. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's one of, like, the biggest problems with, like, I don't know, like, juvenile detention is shit like this and putting people in forever when they're young. Like, this is genuinely insane.
Yeah, and it doesn't even stop there. So this guy, Conahan, and another judge led the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, quote, to throw out 4,000 juvenile convictions, and the discredited state judges were ordered to pay $200 million to the victims, according to the Associated Press.
Wow.
Insane. This guy, look what they did to my fucking liberal Democratic Party, dog. Why are we letting this guy out? Every American thinks that the government itself is corrupt. At a time when the Democratic Party is not seen as the populist anti-establishment party, you cannot be letting out the most corrupt politicians or judges or whatever in American history.
And that's getting like kickbacks for putting people in jail, right? We have other just like more textbook corruption that we have to highlight here. I'm just going to read you just the profiles of some people that were granted clemency as a result of Joe Biden from an NBC and AP article that I read. Okay. This one, a former law partner from Illinois, Paul Daugardas, was convicted of overseeing fraudulent tax shelters at a cost to the government of more than $1.63 billion. The scheme generated over $7 billion of fraudulent deductions, according to prosecutors. His law firm agreed to pay $76 million penalty. Prosecutors called this guy the, quote, the most prolific, pernicious, and utterly unrepentant tax cheat in United States history, while a judge described the case as, quote, the biggest tax fraud persecution ever. According to Forbes, he was sentenced to 15 years in prison in 2014. Biden commuted his sentence. That's wicked.
Yeah.
We are granting... It would have been so easy to have a staffer go through the list and see, okay, if this person did something the worst ever, not them.
Yeah.
Not them. Like
It's not a long list. I mean, 1,500, biggest like batch of commutations in U.S. history.
Yeah.
But you stick 15 staffers on there, they got to go through 100 people each. Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. And
Gets the job
if
done.
they're looking for people who did the worst of a thing in a category ever, there's not that many people. In fact, there's only one in each category.
And it's not even that long ago, right?
Yeah.
Like the one I read's from 2011.
Yeah, no.
Like he was vice president at the time.
This next one, a medical billing company owner, Elaine Lovett of Wayne County, Michigan, was convicted in 2017 for her role in a multi-million-dollar scheme to defraud Medicare using false billing claims in a takedown that included 20 Detroit area doctors and healthcare workers.
Oh my God.
Defrauded Medicare millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Multiple millions of dollars, by the way. Textbook right
Yeah.
there. Just bad. Lock them up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Keep him in jail. There's nothing wrong with not. The thing is, like, Biden said that he thought each of the people on this list demonstrated like remorse and having personally changed from, you know, their time spent in prison or whatever. First of all, I know you didn't meet with all those people. I know a staffer just wrote those words down. Second of all, there's a political benefit to being tough on corruption at a time when everybody thinks the Democratic Party itself is corrupt.
Yeah, Democratic Party in the trenches right now, like lowest of the lows. Like Trump won because people don't fuck with y'all.
And like, to be fair, I can't even say that it's just like a misconception. This is corruption. Like he's pardoning people that did political corruption.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking of corruption, and again, speaking of people who did the worst of something ever, in Ohio, a former Cuyahoga County Commissioner, Jimmy DeMora, served more than a decade in prison on corruption charges before Biden commuted his sentence Thursday. Prosecutors said DeMora orchestrated a sweeping pay-to-play scheme alongside a longtime political ally, former Cuyahoga County Auditor Frank Rousseau, to collect about $450,000 in bribes that included gambling trips to Las Vegas and Canada, prostitutes, and even a stone-fired pizza oven. At the time, it was described as one of the most sweeping corruption cases in Ohio's history. See, this one, I think Biden just saw Hunter. he just saw his own son in these people and said, I gotta let him go.
Or maybe Hunter was like, Dad, you got to get this guy out. Like, he's valid as hell.
Maybe they party together.
Yeah.
Who knows, right? This last one I wanted to highlight from an AP article. Rita Crundwell, 71, of Dixon, Illinois. Crundwell was sentenced to more than 19 years in prison in 2013 for stealing about $54 million over 2 decades when she was in charge of finances for Dixon, Illinois.
Yeah.
We stole $54 million from this, I don't know, county or city or whatever in Illinois, and we're just chill with that?
Yeah. In the CNN article I'm looking at, she was the comptroller of Dixon, Illinois, a city of roughly 15,000 people. She literally embezzled tens of millions of dollars from public funds from a small city.
Yeah.
Got 19 years in prison for it, and Joe Biden's commuting her sentence for no fucking reason.
She's chill.
Yeah.
And like, believe me, I believe in rehabilitation justice.
Of course.
You know what I mean? But we don't have that.
No.
we don't have that right now. I don't know. Like, it's a fucked up thing. When we're messaging, we want to avoid this, is all I'm going to say.
Yeah, no, of course, it's an optics thing, but also at the same time, of course, we don't have a rehabilitative justice system. And if there was ever a group of people to be tough on as like a president, when you're talking like law and order, it's people who are stealing from the public purse.
Yeah.
Like these are the people you should be hard on, especially a dude that's sending kids to jails because he gets kickbacks.
That's the absolute worst
crazy.
Right
In
there.
fact, on that one, even Josh Shapiro said it was bad.
Yeah, and
he said he disagreed. He said he disagreed. Like that's crazy.
He ruined thousands of lives. And he's
I have a quote here from a local outlet in Pennsylvania. They said, quote, "Conahan's actions destroyed families, including mine, and my son's death is a tragic reminder of the consequences of his abuse of power. This pardon feels like an injustice for us all who still suffer. Right now, I am processing and doing my best I can to cope with the pain that this has brought back." We mentioned a few episodes ago about how a lot of like older black voters, for example, remember the last time that the Democratic Party did something for them. This is a person or maybe a group of people that will remember the Democratic Party letting go of a criminal that harmed them in unimaginable ways through public corruption, corruption as a public figure. Like that's remarkable how bad it is. And it's what are we doing?
Yeah, it's just a complete and total optical blunder. This did not need to happen. There's a billion other people we could have pardoned before them. I would argue that there are even some like violent offenders that were convicted on maybe like minor battery, like small assault charges. That, honestly, I don't even need to argue it. There are violent offenders out there that have done less damage to society than these people.
Of course.
Like, what the fuck would he? It is like culturally dope to be tough on like weed. You know, or at least it used to be culturally dope to be like super tough on weed, lock people up for 30 years for a joint. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we if anybody should be tough on, it's people who steal $54 million from a small town. It's people who just abuse their elected position to fuck hookers and do blow and gamble in Las Vegas. Like, it's the worst.
With this Kids for Cash scandal, like I read out, I mean, they sent 4,000 people, kids, to for-profit juvenile detention centers. 4,000 kids, because they were getting kickbacks. And like, of course, they got caught and they were sent to prison for it. But what's the point of commuting their sentence? Like, again, at a time when the Democratic Party is viewed as corrupt, and given like the severity of the crime they committed, what justification is there for this?
It's like, if Trump did this, there'd be a field day.
Yeah,
media would have a field day, and it's like, I keep seeing these people sandwiched between Sarah something 23 when she was 23 when she was convicted of possession of weed, and then the next person you read is the biggest tax cheat in history. Like, those people are not the same.
Yeah, if there was ever an important and justifiable use for our prison system, it is punishing the people who abuse their power as public officials.
Yeah.
Like, that is what it should absolutely be used for.
That needs to be recognized as something that's like very bad and like an awful thing that you can do. Like, just complete and rampant misuse of public trust and funds.
Yeah. And it makes it harder for Democrats to do their jobs, because you got people like this, people like Joe Biden, who are pardoning people like this. And now everyone believes your party is corrupt. And it makes it easier for Republicans to win. And to be fair, Republicans do this shit all the time. Yeah. Like, we Democrats criticized Trump for his like slew of pardons before he left office, because a bunch of them were his friends and like corrupt business people. And now Joe Biden's just throwing these people's names in with people who never should have been in jail to begin with.
Biggest tax cheat in history. Like, come on, man. Come on.
Kids for Cash.
All it takes is one fucking staffer to say, wait a second, this guy literally got money to send 15-year-olds to prison forever. Maybe not this one. And then Joe Biden says, okay, yeah, maybe not that one.
Yeah, this dude's responsible for children dying. Like, all you had to do is write in, like, all these people have their sentences commuted or pardoned or whatever, unless they did corrupting charges.
Except these guys.
Yeah.
And that's totally valid. Fuck,
nobody would have gotten mad at you for that. Everyone would have been like, oh yeah, these guys are the most corrupt people in history.
I hate corrupt politicians. That's like the one thing. If you polled all of America on every single issue, that would be the one issue that 100% of people are like, yeah, I don't like corrupt politicians.
Yeah.
No matter party allegiances, the median voter everywhere, no matter where they are, where they stand on the spectrum, doesn't like corrupt politicians.
Yeah. Like, and I don't want to make it, I don't want to give the sense that, like, overall, I think he shouldn't have pardoned these people. Like the list as a whole, right?
Yeah,
because there's some good stuff in there.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, like there's people that were convicted for nonviolent drug charges. I think the list of like 40 people who he gave total pardons for, they were just like all or almost all nonviolent drug offenders. It
was all people who had also served their sentence, and it was just to get them off, get it off their record.
And that's totally valid. That's what the presidential pardon power should be used for. But why the fuck are the most corrupt people that we can find on this list of commutation?
Literally the most corrupt people we can find.
There's no reason.
Like he pardoned Bernie Madoff. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And they're already like on home arrest. What does it fucking matter?
Yeah, they're free basically.
Yeah,
like house arrest is chill.
Yeah, they're not being like tortured in prison or anything.
Yeah, they got out because of COVID. They just get to chill in their house that they bought with public money that they stole. And just, I don't know, live their life and watch movies and do whatever.
And it's like the dude who did the Kids for Cash thing was 72 at the time. Like, he's not changing.
Yeah.
I'd like he's like 80 something now. But it's like he's so old. All this does is look bad for the Democratic Party.
And importantly, he was already home.
Yeah.
He was already at home. We didn't need to oh my God, that's good. That's
misstep.
Good. And you know, the last year of Biden's presidency was really just something. It really, and it's not over yet. There still could be other bad things he does.
Yeah, he's got about a month left.
Yeah.
A month and 5 days from where we're sitting, I think.
Basically, as long as TikTok has left.
Yeah.
TikTok president.
TikTok president for sure. We interrupt this episode of Head in the Office to remind you to stay warm.
Yeah, remind you that it's getting cold outside and I'm a little chilly.
I wish I had a new hoodie I could wear.
A new comfortable hoodie in a green like money colorway, or even A great colorway.
And, maybe my head is cold. Maybe I need something to make my head warm.
Exactly. Like a beanie.
And on top of all of that, maybe I want to support my favorite podcast, the #1 geopolitical podcast, #1 domestic politics podcast,
#1 election podcast.
Maybe I want to support them and get all the stuff that we've talked about. And you can do that if you head over to headintheoffice.com and get in on our merch.
It's pretty good. And, if you want it to last, it's all embroidered. Featuring new embroidered design, wonderful colors, and,
Yeah, it's perfect for the winter. It's perfect for you. And it's perfect for a gift as we head into the holidays. So head over to headintheoffice.com, support the show. Moving on then, we got to talk about the other guy. The president-elect.
The person of the year.
We're doing, person of the year, our person of the year.
Yeah,
Hito's person of the year. Absolutely. We got to talk about Donald Trump because the biggest piece of political news this past week was Donald Trump being chosen again as Times Person of the Year. I think he was chosen also in 2016, right?
Yes.
Because he won in 2016,
It's basically whoever wins the presidency gets the Time Person of the Year. And then if something big happens, they give it to not a person but a category, which I think is stupid.
Except in 20, I think, wasn't it Joe Biden and Kamala Harris?
Yeah. The person, I think, I was looking through a list of this. Yeah. I looked through a list of the past 20 winners because I was like, I'm pretty sure it's always a president whenever the president wins. And then there's it's like the Ebola fighters, I don't know, the protesters.
Yeah.
Not even in 2020.
One time
2011.
it was you. One time it was you,
so
the audience.
Dumb. Come on, man. Make it a person.
It was Hitler in 1939, I think.
Yes, it was.
Now it's Hitler again. You know what I'm saying?
And that's why it's always funny whenever Person of the Year discourse comes around because, again, in a presidential year, it's always the president and everybody reacts. And whoever side wins is like, yeah, that's so valid. And whoever side loses, like, Person of the Year is a fraud. What's going on? You're in the same, you're peers with Hitler.
Yeah.
It's not based on who was the best person that year. You're peers with Hitler and Taylor Swift. I don't think you can really make moral judgments about why you got on there.
Yeah, I think Elon Musk has been on once or twice.
Yes, I think it was 21 or 22 Elon Musk was there.
Which, whatever.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
So, I don't even think Joe Biden or Kamala Harris were in the contention. At all. I think whoever announced this shit went on some panel and explained Time's rationale because the liberals were mad, of course.
Oh, it's so fucking dumb.
And there was 5 finalists or whatever, and I don't think Joe Biden or Kamala Harris were even a part of that group, which is interesting.
I think it would have been really funny if Kamala won and Trump was still Person of the Year because honestly, that'd be so valid.
Yeah, well, and I said this in our interview with Andre Dutra, which you all should check out over on Patreon
absolutely.
if you want to get access to that right now.
It was a good interview.
But Joe Biden should have been Times Person of the Year.
Yeah.
Because if Times Person of the Year is whoever had the most impact, nobody is more single-handedly responsible for Trump returning to the White House than Joe Biden is.
Yeah, he had quite the year.
Yeah, because he refused to drop out for so long, because he put so many conservative and moderate restraints on Kamala Harris's campaign. He is more responsible than even Kamala Harris or her campaign is for Donald Trump getting into the White House. Donald Trump damn near won by default.
No, he literally won by default. What did he do? He didn't do a single thing that was positive this campaign cycle.
Yeah.
He fucking chose the worst VP pick in history ever, and then he got convicted of felonies, and then just kind of stumbled his way through the year.
Yeah. And there were so many missteps at the end of that campaign.
Yeah, the Tony Hinchcliffe Puerto Rico shit.
The Tony Hinchcliffe shit. Basically, everything he did towards the end of that campaign was a misstep. He just kind of won by accident. And this is especially evident because the Republican Party lost all the swing state Senate races except Pennsylvania, which they won narrowly. This wasn't a decisive win for Republicans. The only reason they won is because Joe Biden sucked so fucking bad.
It'd be so cool if we could run the generic Democrat that always blows out the polls.
Yeah, never. I don't know if we'll ever even be able to find out what that means to the average voter, the median voter, I should say.
Yeah, such a dumb category.
So, give Joe Biden his flowers. He ruined the year. Anyways, getting into Donald Trump. Trump did a very long sit-down interview with Time Magazine a couple of weeks ago that they just released because he won Time Person of the Year. Not going to go through all the details here because a lot of it, I've noticed in recent interviews, Trump is trying to moderate himself. He's trying to seem reasonable.
Oh wow! Now we're learning from the failed Kamala campaign. What's going on?
yeah. Trump's trying to be a little bit reasonable, but of course his true side comes out sometimes. I think he did an interview with Kristen Welker from ABC, NBC. I don't remember.
CNN? No.
She asked him about if he's going to go after his list of political enemies, and he of course said no. She asked about Kash Patel's list of like 60 people that he wants to go after. He's like, no, I'm not. He's not going to do that. And then she asked about Liz Cheney and the January 6th committee.
And he said yes.
And he was like, they should all be in jail.
Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go.
He said every person who voted for, or every person who was on the January 6th committee should be in jail. But I'm not going to go after him.
Oh my goodness. That's good.
But so I think he's trying to moderate himself. But I don't think he's succeeding because I've got a few quotes from this interview.
Okay.
And I'm afraid we're going to have to give out some I Fell For It Again awards because Trump admits to some stuff that I think would have been good information before the election.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if it would have really changed anyone's mind because median voter syndrome and all that. But one of the questions that Trump was asked was, if the grocery prices don't come down, will your presidency be a failure? Good question. And he responds with, this is a quote from him, I don't think so. Look, they got them up. I'd like to bring them down. It's hard to bring things down once they're up. It's very hard, but I think they will. That's
coming from the guy that ran his campaign based on Joe Biden didn't bring grocery prices down.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring grocery prices down.
Yeah. The whole, damn near the sole reason he won was because of quote unquote Biden inflation.
Yeah.
And now he's like, well, I don't know if I can bring things down, but I'll try.
He's bringing out the macroeconomic argument. Guys, prices are sticky.
Yeah. Once inflation happens, deflation is just unlikely, guys.
And deflation, you guys wouldn't understand the macroeconomic implications of that. Like, that's just not enough for this program.
Yeah, so here, a subtle admission that prices, in fact, are not going to go down, of course. Moving on to some more culture war things. He was asked, the question was, in 2016, you said that transgender people could use whatever bathroom they choose. Do you still feel this way? Truth. There's a clip of him that I reposted recently where he's basically saying like, oh yeah, I don't care. Caitlyn Jenner could use whatever bathroom she wants in Trump Tower or whatever the fuck the question was. Here he says, quote, I don't want to get into the bathroom issue because it's a very small number of people that we're talking about and it's ripped our country apart. So they'll have to settle for whatever the law finally agrees. And then he was asked a follow-up question. There's a big fight on this in Congress right now. The incoming trans member from Delaware, Sarah McBride, says we should all be focused on more important issues. Do you agree? And Trump responds with, quote, I do agree with that. On that, absolutely. As I was saying, it's a small number of people.
Damn, that's what we've been saying.
Yeah.
Trump head-o-head?
Trump leftist.
Trump's the leftist. Guys, you don't know this issue. It's not that big. We're dedicating a lot of public time and energy and legislative effort to these things that really only stand to hurt a couple people. Yeah. But I guess let the law be the law. And that's where we go off the rails.
That low-key the Kamala Harris response, I'll do whatever the law says. Stupid-ass response. I think this answer is more evidence, as we've been saying for a long time, that Trump does not care about the trans issue.
Oh, no. He doesn't care about anything.
He grew up as a New Yorker,
yeah,
around gay people, trans people, and so on. I genuinely think he doesn't care. But he's a political animal. He knows which way the winds are shifting, and so he kind of just goes along with it. I mean, there was that clip from like a year and a half ago where he's doing a rally. He's like, you guys used to not care about the trans thing, but now I talk about it, you go crazy.
Yeah.
Like, he understands what's going on here, and I genuinely think he doesn't care, although, of course, his administration will be very hostile towards trans people, which is actually something we have to talk about in a little bit here.
Even if it's not even if it's not him being directly hostile towards trans people, it's the people he's putting in power, and it's the senators that have come up under him. It's like all of the MAGA apparatus. Again, I would like to point to Texas. Greg Abbott and Ken Paxton very much like MAGA heads. You know what I mean? And they are just absolutely spearheading this anti-trans campaign.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Trump was asked several questions pertaining to his deportation plans, mostly in relation to the migrant detention camps. And when he was asked if more camps will be built, he said the following, quote, well, there might be. Whatever it takes to get them out, I don't care. Oh. Honestly, whatever it takes to get them out. Again, I'll do it absolutely within the confines of the law, but if it needs new camps, but I hope we're not going to need too many because I want them out, and I don't want them sitting in camp for the next 20 years. That's a Trump quote.
Yeah, man, I just don't, I don't know, maybe this is purely just a vibes thing. I don't really like talking about camps where we're concentrating people.
Detention camps.
I don't really like talking about camps where we're putting a specific group of people in.
Yeah.
While we're trying to get them out of the country. I think there's a historical analog there.
There's a lot of historical analogs when you try to move millions of people.
Yeah.
And you keep them in camps for some, I don't know, inapproximate amount of time. Bad things happen.
Bad things happen.
I will remind you that the Nazis' original goal was just to get Jewish people out of Germany.
Yeah.
We can see how that went, right?
Yeah.
Not good. It kind of just evades analysis, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's not good, folks. It's looking real bad. So Trump here, open, of course, to building more detention camps for migrants. And this, of course, is on top of him last week reaffirming the goal to end birthright citizenship in the United States, which birthright citizenship in the U.S. is one of like the one things that the founding fathers did good.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, it wouldn't have been founding fathers. It was the 14th Amendment. It was the 14th Amendment. Birthright citizenship in the U.S. is one of the good things that the country's actually done in a whole host of bad things with the 14th Amendment. So, like...
Wasn't birthright citizenship like a civil rights thing, too? Like, kind of? Wasn't it a response to, like, the Dred Scott decision and how they said that black people aren't citizens?
Yeah, well, 14th Amendment generally is, like, equal protection under the law type shit. Yeah. But birthright citizenship is cool and based because... You're born in the country. You're a citizen of the country. There's no real explanation.
Like, why
right?
not? Like, countries are fake anyway. Mm-hmm. All the rules are fucking fake anyway.
Yeah. Like, if you're born in, like, the southern portion of Texas, you're telling me if you were, like, 10 miles more south, you're different?
A Mexican now?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, right? And a lot of other countries, of course, have birthright citizenship, especially on this side of the hemisphere.
Which is something he routinely lied about in either this interview or the interview with...
is the Kristen Welker interview,
with Kristen Welker, where she's like, okay, he straight up said, we're the only country that does this. Not true at all, actually. Yeah. It's just not.
Canada does it, yeah.
Canada does it. Most of Latin America does it. Mm-hmm. It's just a thing.
Yeah. European countries have some restrictions where it's like at least one parent has to be a citizen or have permanent residency or something like that. But it's like, we're better than them.
Yeah, but European countries suck. Mm-hmm. They have France.
Yeah.
They have France, and they also had, something that happened in the 1940s.
Mm-hmm. And they also got a lot of, like, weird ethnic nationalist tensions.
They hate immigrants over there. They fucking hate immigrants. And I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's not talked about enough because we live in America, and obviously this is an American politics show, but, like, y'all are insanely xenophobic. Mm-hmm. We didn't talk about the things that were happening in the UK. I want to say like 2 months ago, but they were fucking rioting over like it was like pogroms. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness!
Like during the UK's new PM election, Rishi Sunak was saying that he wanted to send a bunch of illegal immigrants to Tunisia to get rid of them. And the fact, what's the other guy's name? Keir Starmer kept getting asked, like, what are you going to do with immigrants? And then eventually he was just like, yeah, I'll send them to Tunisia.
What the fuck, man? And then wasn't the whole refugee crisis like was that Trump's first term or was that the end of Obama? Or end of Obama carried over into Trump?
I don't remember, but it was like the Syrian refugees and stuff.
Yeah, the whole refugee crisis, wasn't that partly because Europe said, no, we are not taking any Muslims? Yeah. They are xenophobic, strictly anti-Muslim, especially France.
And then there was a wicked spike in like allegations that a bunch of Muslim people are stabbing.
Yes.
It was like chronic stabbings or something
and
like
then racists love to point at like, I don't know, Sweden and say, look at all the crime that happened once they let them in. Or some shit like that.
Crazy.
Like, y'all suck, actually.
Yeah. It's real bad. But of course, we can be better than them.
We can't be. We are better than them. American exceptionalism. What happened to it?
We could have it all, really. Also, within this interview, no real challenge of his claim that 21 million illegal immigrants have come in under Biden. He said 21 in this interview. He said 25 before. Again, a claim he made during this interview that received no pushback, which boggles the mind. Like, I have not seen him once receive pushback on this idea that it's 20 or 25 or 21 million people that have come in under Biden.
You know how much pushback Kamala Harris got at every single one of her interviews whenever she said anything? Those were fucking contentious.
Yeah.
This is other than the questions being somewhat like framed in opposition to Trump or framed to point out something that Trump is doing as ridiculous. This was a Fox News interview.
Yeah.
Like completely softball. Why are we not like to get a Trump interview? Do you have to agree to no live fact checking?
I don't know. Like maybe some of the media is afraid they're going to be put in like the torture rack once Trump gets elected. You know what I mean?
I fucking
or
guess.
Once he gets inaugurated.
Stand up.
Yeah, no, the media is completely rolling over here.
Like
it's actually crazy.
They've gone to the fucking Merrick Garland school of not prosecuting people in order to not be perceived as partisan.
Merrick Garland literally did nothing.
He did nothing.
Merrick Garland did nothing his entire time in office. That's crazy. Oh my God, he would have just been better on the Supreme Court. He could have at least been a no vote. It could have been 5-4, 6-3. But fucking hell, man, it's bad out here. More broadly, though, I haven't really seen any reaction to the interview, the Time interview, at least. I feel like it's a little strange, but at this point, we've just kind of come to expect that anytime Biden made a flub, for example, like every Democrat would have to answer to it.
Yep.
But when Trump makes flubs or just says lies outright or proposes a new insane policy, no Republican has to answer for that.
Like, we're just not graded on the same rubric.
No,
we're really
it's
not.
And it's not good. The media is just giving up.
The media is giving up. And you know what? Honestly, this is the end of that segment, right?
Yeah.
Kind of speaking to the media giving up, I want to jump ahead a little bit and talk about how Trump settled in a defamation suit against ABC.
Okay.
I didn't know what this is going on. I'm assuming most of you probably didn't know this is going on, so here's a little rundown. Back in March, George Stephanopoulos had a contentious interview with friend of the show, Nancy Mace, literally friend of the show. She commented on one of our TikToks. In the interview, George played a clip.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. Trigger warning, sexual assault, by the way. In the interview, George played a clip where Nancy Mace talks about having been a victim of rape. Afterwards, he asks her, quote, "How do you square your endorsement of Donald Trump with the testimony we just saw? You've endorsed Donald Trump for president. Judges and 2 separate juries have found him liable of rape and for defaming the victim of that rape." This is in reference to the E. Jean Carroll civil trial that happened in January when that conviction came through.
Right.
Stephanopoulos went on to claim that Trump was found liable of rape 10 times throughout the course of the interview. That doesn't sound crazy to reasonable people. Trump saw this and decided to sue for defamation. Just sue ABC, sue George Stephanopoulos.
But that is the correct terminology, right?
Oh, like apparently it's not.
Okay.
Apparently it's fucking not. Well, I don't know. I would argue that is. ABC isn't even trying to fight this. And I think that's the big point that I kind of wanted to draw by highlighting this case. ABC just agreed to settle with him. Per the settlement, ABC News has to issue an editor's note saying that they regret statements made, make a $15 million contribution to Trump's presidential library, and pay $1 million in Trump's legal fees.
Come on,
because
dog.
they don't want to fight the defamation case that Trump brought against them for the claims that George Stephanopoulos made that he was found liable of rape. I think a crucial part of proving a defamation case is proving there was actual harm done. What fucking harm could have been done by like an offhand remark in an interview that nobody watched?
Yeah, back in March.
What harm could have been brought by this interview? Honestly, even before we get into that, like you can't convince me that this did more damage than the actual like court case where he was found civilly liable of, quote, sexual abuse, because he wasn't found civilly liable for rape. It was sexual abuse, which, as a judge explained in August of 2023, the claim that Trump raped Carroll was substantially true. The judge wrote that Trump, quote, raped her in a broader sense of that word as people generally understand it, though not as how it is narrowly defined by New York state law.
Okay.
So the issue here that I guess Trump is trying to bring is that, like, oh, yes, maybe, yeah, I raped her, but, like, not in New York state law. And ABC News doesn't want to challenge that.
Yeah.
They don't even want to challenge that on the grounds that how are you damaged by this?
Well, yeah, and it'd be like there's distinctions between like manslaughter 1, manslaughter 2, manslaughter 3. You know what I mean? But like generally, when you look at somebody causing a death, it's like, oh yeah, you killed that person.
Yeah, murder 1, murder 2, murder 3, all different things. Varying things have to go into that.
Of course.
This sexual abuse in this, as explained by this judge in 2023, is tantamount to rape as we understand it colloquially.
Exactly.
It just does not fit this narrow legal definition, which legal definitions are damn near always different than what we think of as non-legal persons.
Yeah.
And so that constitutes ABC News settling for $15 million. Fight this shit. This is just another example of liberal and liberal adjacent institutions just deciding to just roll over.
Yeah,
because Trump was
100%.
elected. It's the fucking talk about preemptive pardons for Trump from fucking Clyburn. He went on this week, I think, was it CNN or ABC? He went on fucking some liberal news channel. He's like, yeah, we need to end this charade and just pardon Trump so that nobody wants to go after this anymore.
Bro, why?
Why?
Well, literally,
A Republican would never do that to you, and that's why the Republicans are winning. You look feckless, and there's the argument that keeps getting brought up. It's like, you guys called this guy Hitler for a month. For a year, for 4 years, for 8 years, you guys have called this guy Hitler, and now he won, and you're like, yeah, let's pardon Hitler. What the fuck is going on? And ABC News is like, yeah, we're not going to defend ourselves. We're just going to pay the $15 million. No, go after him and make him pay your legal fees because he was not actually damaged by this. He won the fucking presidency. How can you prove that he was actually damaged by an interview that nobody fucking watched? I didn't even know this interview happened.
Yeah. No, and it's like the criticism that like Joe Biden and some people in the media have been calling Trump Hitler and now they're rolling over for him is totally valid.
Yeah.
Because they are literally doing that. But it's not a valid criticism because Trump doesn't act like Hitler. Of course, he has said things like Hitler. It's only valid because they're not standing on business
Yeah.
behind their words. Like, and also with this defamation case that they've settled on, a long, protracted fight in courts over this defamation suit would have continuously reminded people that Trump is a rapist.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Oh, maybe I'll get sued.
It would, allegedly.
Allegedly. Liable, allegedly.
It would have made more people aware. And even if people want to be pedantic about the legal distinctions between sexual abuse and rape as it is understood in New York state law, they would be made aware that what sexual abuse is defined and what Trump was found liable for is tantamount to what you as an average citizen think of as rape. Like, that's bad, and people should be aware that that's their fucking president.
Yeah, and like the First Amendment's pretty robust and broad. It's really hard to prove defamation in the United States.
That's another layer to why it's so absurd that they settled. And the only reason I think they settled is because, I don't know, the conservatives in the C-suite over there were like, yeah, let's not do it. Trump won. This will be bad for ratings.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Like,
yeah, that's all it is.
It is famously hard to prove defamation and libel. Famously, you almost never win a defamation and libel case. I can't imagine there's ever a fucking world where somebody could win a defamation case where they allege that a statement a journalist made ruined their public image, and they can actually prove that their public image was lowered, even though they still won the presidency in what people called as like this insanely unexpected, almost landslide win for a bit.
Especially because it was in an interview with a congresswoman that nobody watched.
Yeah.
Like, this wasn't an interview with Trump. It wasn't an interview with Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. It was an interview, as you say, nobody watched. And it was an interview with Nancy Mace.
I don't even think
Nobody
Nancy Mace
cares.
wasn't even popping until she started just unfairly targeting the first trans She rode the historical wave of the first trans congresswoman getting elected to be evil and get famous for that. That's the only time she's ever been relevant.
Yeah, well, and she's done some bits before. She previously tried to be like the face of the anti-Trump movement. That didn't work out, though. She was, in 2021, I think, pro-LGBTQ. I guess not anymore, though. And then she did the thing that we talked about, the Scarlet A on it. I still don't really understand what that was about.
I think somebody
Somebody explained it.
Somebody in our Patreon explained it. It is the Scarlet Letter.
Yeah.
She's just, oh my God, man.
But then now, of course, her most famous bit is being horribly transphobic.
Insane.
And just dropping slurs on the internet, by the way. But that's besides the point. Yeah, no, it's stupid. Media's just giving up.
Responding to literally any TikToker that mentions her.
That's really funny that she responded to us. And it was like before it had really popped off at all.
It was at like fucking 5,000 views.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we get Nancy Mace checkmark commented on your video.
Yeah, so
we have more followers than her, I think, too, so that's kind of cool.
yeah, we got beef with her.
Hell yeah.
Congress people are really just people.
We got actual beef with her. Like, we're like, it's not parasocial anymore. It's not a one-sided beef.
No, she's responded to us. We're 0 degrees of separation from Nancy Mace.
Exactly. That's
She's
pretty
spoken
crazy,
to
guys.
us, you know what I'm saying? Anyways, speaking of trans folks,
Yes.
and the Republican Congress, Republicans in Congress, we got to talk about healthcare and broadly transgender affirming care, and the Republicans' incoming attempts to gut it substantially. And, you know, this has been a goofy, silly episode so far, but this is actually going to be really bad if it happens.
Oh, repealing the ACA.
No, not repealing
Worse?
the ACA. Yeah, well, I don't know. Repealing the ACA would also be very bad, but like that'd be like a catastrophe broadly.
Okay.
This is a very specific targeted
this
attack
is
at trans folks.
healthcare.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. There's a really big legislative attack coming down the pipeline from the Republican Party, and I think we should talk about it.
I think so, too.
I'll be referencing a piece from, I believe her name is Jael Holzman. It's Jael. I don't know exactly how to pronounce that, but
I wouldn't either.
she wrote a piece in the Rolling Stone. She was also recently on Chapo explaining the same thing that we're going to talk about, GOP's efforts to attack trans folks. And I just felt, I was sort of inspired, I guess you could say, by the information she was sharing, because it's a big deal. And in a political climate where Democrats might just be rolling over on issues like this, I think it's more important than ever to advocate for the marginalized and speak up about legal attempts to crush a minority group.
Yeah, you know, when you're elected representatives that have actual power, just want to throw minorities under the bus, it's the most podcasters are the last line of defense.
Precisely. And that's how I view myself.
Exactly.
I'm an agent of history.
100%.
Yeah. So
I'm the town crier.
I'm standing on my little soapbox. So the incoming Republican Congress is aiming to ban all federal funds from going to entities that provide gender-affirming care, whether it's reassignment surgery, hormones, social transitioning, anything like that. I have a quote from the piece here. It says, quote, Language in the House Republicans' most recent funding bill for the Health and Human Services Department would do just that. Ban money from any federal program to entities that do social transitioning or drugs and surgery for gender dysphoria.
Social transitioning.
And social transitioning. And so gender dysphoria, of course, is the diagnosis that doctors give to justify any kind of medical intervention. But the next legislation, I'm guessing through the budgeting period, legislation that's going to be introduced in the next Congress, where Republicans have majorities in both chambers, it seems that they are going to try to cut federal funding from anybody that provides this kind of care.
I'm mostly hung up on the social transition. Obviously, the other stuff is bad too, but that do social transitioning. So what, we're going after psychiatrists that tell you to get a haircut?
Right.
What the fuck? What does that mean? How do you go after institutions that promote social transitioning? Mm-hmm. Social transitioning is just something it's the most accessible form of transition. And
Yeah. So again, this is legislation that's probably going to be considered in the next Congress because, again, Republicans are going to have control of the Senate and the House. But I have another quote. It says, bans like these can lead to the private sector discontinuing behaviors altogether. And once they're in place, they're hard to get rid of. The Hyde Amendment, enacted in the 1970s, led to most abortions no longer being performed in hospitals and is continually renewed every year. Now, the Hyde Amendment since 1977 has prohibited federal funds from paying for most abortions, with some exceptions like life of the mother type shit. But basically, if you provide abortions using the federal money that we give you, we're not going to give you federal money anymore. It's why hospitals don't accept or don't do abortions themselves, because they could lose all federal funding. And so the idea is that Republicans are going to try to introduce something like the Hyde Amendment, but applied to gender affirming care, which would be
stood.
The Hyde Amendment?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Democrats vote for it every year, too.
Why?
Yeah.
Fucking why?
Nowadays, it's the more conservative Joe Manchin types, but yeah, the Hyde Amendment is a part of like every budget.
I love our country.
Yeah, and they're pretty hard to get rid of. But the idea here is that a Hyde Amendment type prohibition on federal funds will be placed on gender affirming care, which would really decimate healthcare for trans folks. The last quote I have here is, if a Hyde-level ban on federal funding were enacted, many hospitals would simply prioritize federal dollars over continuing this highly specialized form of medical care. So much medicine is performed through hospital systems and universities that this could mean ending access for many. So that's what we're staring at. That's what's coming down the line.
This is just blanket gender affirming care. Mm-hmm. This isn't just gender affirming care for youth. This is just
blanket gender affirming care. Yeah,
dog. I say it every week. Who fucking cares if you want to take hormones?
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially as an adult.
Yeah.
Who fucking cares if you, as an adult, decide you want to do literally whatever you want?
Well, and I can already see the way it's going to be framed is Republicans are going to say taxpayer money should not be used to change people's gender. Or they might say it more, I don't know, cynically and violently, like taxpayers should not be paying to cut penises off of men type shit.
And that's what, anytime you say taxpayer money should not be, it can be a Trojan horse for whatever fucking evil or honest or good cause you want it to be. Mm-hmm. It's such a disingenuous way to like argue it. Yeah. Taxpayer dollars are in fucking everything.
Oh yeah,
whether you like it or not. That's just how government and society function.
Yeah, well, and that's the important bit here when it comes to healthcare, especially. Like, federal funding often just decides what gets to happen.
Yeah.
Because our healthcare system is very reliant on federal money, despite not being a universalized system. Hospitals, insurance providers, healthcare professionals, like all of this really relies on federal funding. And if this type of ban goes into effect, it means surgeries don't get to happen, even those that are scheduled currently. Hormones aren't prescribed to people. Therapy sessions stop. And trans folks that can't afford to go to practitioners that don't rely on federal funds just don't get access to the care that they need. And as we've said, with every single bill that tries to cut gender affirming care off for people that need it, it is just a pro-suicide measure. Yeah. That is what these kinds of this is what this kind of legislation does.
If something like this happens, like the ACLU has got to go challenge this on the grounds that we got to ban boob jobs.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And that's got to be the Trojan horse that we use to get conservative men on the side of trans rights.
I don't even know if federal funding goes towards that anyway, though. I don't think that'll matter.
That's true, because that's a private practice kind of thing.
But right now, of course, federal money can be used because there's no ban on it. But I can almost guarantee Republicans are going to try to do something like this. I think Mike Johnson's basically already said, like, yeah, it's going to be a part of the House spending bill, the spending bill that comes out of the House. So it's something that we have to look forward to. And again, as I said at the top of this, we've been goofy, silly. It is crazy. Like last episode, we talked about how crazy Republicans in Texas are when it comes to gender affirming care. But this is probably as long as the podcast has been alive since 2021, would be the biggest, most disastrous, most dangerous attempt to restrict gender affirming care that Republicans have ever tried.
Yeah, especially when we have the Tennessee law being challenged at the Supreme Court actively right now.
Yes.
We'll have that decision at the end of this term in June.
Mm-hmm.
June, July, whenever these decisions come out. That's going to be another thing that, like, in conjunction with this, could just mean that we just have a gender affirming care ban for the youth that just goes through.
Yeah.
Just in general, and then which will lead to a gender affirming care ban.
That's what I was going to say, is like we've seen on a state by state level, some states ban gender affirming care for minors. That, of course, is right now being challenged in the Supreme Court. We've seen, like in Florida, restrictions on what can be taught about trans folks throughout history to children. But this is, I think, on a level that we have not seen before. And it's hard to really get at how evil this is, because it seems so simple, like, oh, we're just cutting federal funding off, right?
Yeah.
First of all, it's like very legal. It's like, you know, it's something Congress is doing, so you can't argue that it's illegal, and it's also it seems very banal.
Yeah.
But restricting federal funding from anybody that performs this kind of healthcare is basically just to say you don't get to have your healthcare anymore, and that's like, that will decimate gender affirming care for a lot of people.
And it's like, what, the only way you could combat that is if the Supreme Court decided to rule that trans is in fact an immutable characteristic, and there would be some discrimination that would come from this. But considering the Hyde Amendment has stood in the wake of Roe v. Wade, I don't even know that could work.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I know in 2020, I think the Supreme Court held 6-3, even with the conservatives on the court, that what exactly did they say? I think it was like it might have just been Title IX protections, actually, that apply to like trans folks. So maybe that isn't applicable here. But I am not hopeful that the Supreme Court would side on the side of trans folks here, because this is just Congress. This is Congress doing what they do. This is allocating funding.
Yeah.
It's a very, again, banal practice, but it would be really, really harmful for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's really hard to argue that Congress, who is, you know, enamored within the Constitution to control the power of the purse to assign funding, can't assign funding in like any specific circumstances. Yeah, that's pretty bad. You can count on the Supreme Court to vote for evil every time, and when they don't, it's something to be celebrated.
And you can count on Republicans to do the evil.
Yeah, 100%. That's actually crazy.
Yeah. So, but not all is lost. That's not the end of the story just yet. Republicans are not going to have a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate in 2025. So they can't just pass this outright, right? They do not have 60 votes. They'll need at least 7 Democrats to get on their side to reach that threshold. But some Democrats, and this is my worry about this scenario, they have an outright majority in the House. I don't think any Republican would defect on this measure. There's no like political advantage to them defecting, right? Like they'll get 218 votes in the House for this measure.
Although they have like, what, 2 votes to play with?
1, actually.
Oh, 1.
Because I think Matt Gaetz resigned, and I think Trump chose 2 people from the House to be in his cabinet. So I think they're playing with a 1-seat majority. If one person switches,
so those go to special elections, don't they?
Yeah, but that won't be done for a while. We'll probably have to wait till like sometime mid next year for that to happen. But anyways, my worry here is that it's going to pass the House, and some Democrats have understood this past election loss as evidence that the party is out of touch, specifically on the trans issue. And because some of them are feeling emboldened to make some type of change or to try to push for some type of change within the party, they might defect and support medical or federal funding restrictions on this kind of healthcare. Now, if that contingent of Democratic senators is as big as 7, I don't know. But I feel like right now, a lot of different Democrats are trying to prove that their view of what happened in the election is correct. And there's a group of senators, there's a group of Democrats that really think we lost because of trans folks.
Well, it's homeboy from New York.
Yeah.
It's homeboy from New York that said, I don't want my daughter playing with grown-ass men.
Yeah, and it's Seth Moulton saying that, I don't, Democrats are supposed to be afraid of the sports issue or whatever.
Jesus fucking Christ. That's genuinely worrying.
Yeah, it's
I feel like it's a lot harder to find Democratic members of the Senate that would be willing to do that than it is the House. So I guess that's hopeful.
Yeah, because there's only, 47, or I guess 45 if you don't count the independents, Democratic senators. Yeah. Of course, Bernie's not going to vote for some shit like this. The other independent who caucuses with the Democrats, I think Angus King from Maine, he's not going to vote for it. So hard to find 7 Democratic senators that would vote in favor of this kind of thing. But there's an obvious contingent within the party right now that want to pivot towards some kind of economic populism and sacrifice trans people in the process.
I don't even know if they want to pivot towards economic populism. I think they just want to sacrifice trans people. I think they just want to blame that as the issue and continue doing the like corporate neoliberalism that they've been doing.
Even better.
Which is even better. I mean, it's like it's the Chuck Schumer types that aren't as progressive as Chuck Schumer.
As progressive as Chuck Schumer.
You know, it's a relative scale. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like none of this happens if we don't have a Democratic Party that is willing to throw trans people under the bus anytime something goes wrong. Yeah. And I'm not saying it's the whole Democratic Party because it's not. The vast majority, I think, are pro-trans and are willing to at least message about being pro-trans.
See, I'm not so sure anymore.
You don't think? I think it may be a slim majority. I think it's just like it's a small contingent of them that are just super willing to never be responsible for anything.
I think that there's a small contingent that want to be actively anti-trans.
Yep.
And they think that's like the path towards future electoral success. I think most Democrats don't know how to talk about it. There is I think there is a portion of the Democratic Party, maybe like 40 to 50%, maybe it is even half of them, that are like pro-trans, and that's sort of a political position they're not willing to switch up on. But I also think a lot of Democrats just don't know what to say about this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so there is no messaging. I mean, we saw it with Kamala Harris. Like, she clearly doesn't know how to talk about the trans issue because she was fucking in 2019 asked about it, and she goes to fucking prisoners. Talk about gender affirming care for prisoners.
She goes to the most fucking...
Obviously, I think everybody in prison should get health care, but that is not what you had. She didn't have to pivot to that. You know what I mean? Came back to bite her in the ass in 2024.
Fucking ACLU questionnaire, too.
Yeah.
Nobody pays attention to that. No median voter pays attention to that, I should say. Yeah. I'm not saying it's a wrong position. I agree with the position, but like because she was disingenuously woke, she got the one ad that honestly didn't even do anything, but a lot of Democrats think it did do something.
Yeah.
And that sucks, man. And we're not here if the Democratic Party stands on business. No. We don't even have to worry about this if the Democratic Party stands on business on other issues.
I wish they could stand on business on anything, but they're so scared.
Which I feel like Democrats honestly play such a massive role in making trans issues like culture war issues, not in their defense of trans people, but in their antagonism against them, because they just give more room for conservatives to be freaks.
Yeah, yeah. Like, and that's kind of the thing I wanted to get into is like, when it comes to defending trans people, I don't know what the Democratic Party is so afraid of.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like so many of the old head Democrats have no idea how to talk about trans folks or gender affirming care, and they end up just completely conceding on the issue, right? And it's bizarre to me because we know that the anti-trans shit is not a winning message for the GOP. They got clapped in 2020 when so many people around the country, so many Republicans ran explicitly as anti-trans. And then we have Andy Bashir, both times he got elected, being explicitly pro-LGBTQ, telling Democrats we should not be abandoning this community and that we can win on this issue. I don't know why the Democratic Party seems so afraid to stand on business and defend trans people, especially now when we're staring down the barrel of a potential federal ban on funding for gender affirming care. Now is the time to defend this group.
And I mean, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like Democrats in state legislatures, they don't really do this shit, do they?
I don't think so. I think they're a lot better.
I guess maybe you don't hear about it as much, but it feels like it's like the Democrats at the federal level, like the old guard, really, the people who refuse to turn over from previous administrations that, as we know now, with the ability of hindsight, have failed. And they just refuse to accept that they failed in ways, and they just want to go to what is like the new thing. I just looked it up. Trans people are approximately 0.6% of the U.S. population. This is not like... It's not even an issue that really registered when we looked at the polling for why people voted for Trump or why people voted for Kamala.
Yeah.
It's not a group that you can blame for fucking anything.
Yeah, and to the extent that people think Democrats are out of touch, to the extent that people think that Democrats are out of touch on this issue, it's because they don't know how to talk about it.
Yeah.
They completely concede the framing. Kamala Harris barely talked about it at all, and when she was asked about it, she was just saying, "I'll follow the law." Like, what are we talking about? Is the Democratic Party the party for the marginalized and disadvantaged or not? You don't get to say that you stand for the common person, for the working man, and not defend the common people that are a part of your constituency. Fight for your fucking people. You don't get to have it both ways. If you want to be the party of the corporate elite, you can do that, but Republicans do it better and you'll continue to lose. Like, fight for the fucking people you say that you stand for. I don't know why so many people in the party are afraid of this. It's disappointing, worrying, and frankly, I don't know, not what we need for the future of this country and for this party. It's bad. Yeah.
We need polio.
We need polio.
we need RFK to bring back polio, and then maybe some people will finally learn to stand on business.
Yeah. That's Maybe.
Maybe. Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe that's what we need, a radical shakeup. And I think bringing back communicable diseases is what it is.
We need more. Look, nature gifted us with an unalterable temperament.
Yeah.
And we've made ourselves weak with the introduction of the vaccines for things like polio.
Exactly. Guys, we used to work our immune systems. Mm-hmm. We used to work our immune systems to death, literally.
Yeah.
And now what do? They just sit there like lazy liberals. Don't do anything. Huh?
We basically don't even need them. It's like an atrophied muscle.
Yep.
Now they don't do anything for us.
Don't do anything. We just go take a shot. You've replaced what God gave you.
I bet
the immune system that God intelligently designed, and now what do we have here? People that want to sit on their ass.
I bet if we stood on this rhetoric for long enough, RFK might hire us in the HHS.
I think so.
And I'm looking for a job.
I think he could. Yeah, that's facts. We should become like fake doctors. Like we should become chiropractors. I saw this one anti-vax chiropractor earlier this week that was saying shit like, think about when you get a kidney transplant, when you get like an organ transplant, you're on anti-rejection meds for the rest of your life because your body is constantly rejecting this foreign DNA. But what about a vaccine? They make vaccines in chicken eggs and snake eggs. Your body's going to reject that foreign DNA. Yeah, one, I disagree with your premises here, but two, your body does kind of reject vaccines. That's the point, is your body reacts to a vaccine to then build immunity to that vaccine. But, who am I?
Man.
Just somebody who has a biochem degree. I don't know.
The worst part about RFK being the secretary of HHS is that these kinds of guys
chiropractors
are going to get platformed nonstop.
Yeah.
That's enough to make me do a solo Jan 6.
And it's like the video that I saw from there, it was from a YouTube channel with it was like Off the Grid James or some shit. And it was a dude who was sitting in front of a fucking wood stove. How fucking off the grid are you posting on YouTube, dumbass, huh? It's a dude sitting in front of like a wood stove, and he's like, I'm going to play you this fucking clip. And then it was two dudes it was a dude that looks like he wore tap-out shirts 10 years ago with like the spiked up fro hawk, you know what I mean? Too much gel in the hair, talking to this fucking chiropractor who's spewing just bullshit about how vaccines are going to kill you.
Oh my God, dog. The fact that the Democratic Party let the right side, the wonk side of the right wing take on the anti-establishment label is such a fumble. Like the way that these people get to brand themselves as like the working class hero looking out for the health of the average person. What have we look at what they did to my party, dog.
Look at what they've done to my party, man. And it's like every single person like on like the anti-vax right, the anti-science right, the big wellness right, like loves to find the one doctor or one not even doctor who is willing to say whatever they want to hear and say that's the right guy. That's the one guy who has this opinion must be the one right guy, not the millions of people who have dedicated their lives to this study.
Yeah. It's the Joe Rogan. I mean, that's what Joe Rogan does, right?
Yep.
Now we're about to have a fucking Joe Rogan presidency.
Man, goddamn, man.
That sucks.
What a life we live.
Yeah, we got to listen to this dude talk all the time.
Yeah. How about them Lions, though?
They're about to play.
Hey, how about them? They're about to play the Bills. Hopefully that goes well.
Yeah, hopefully when you listen to this on Wednesday, the Lions have improved to 13-1.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah,
that'd be fantastic.
Lions to the Super Bowl is the only thing that can save us.
Then they only need one more win for the bye, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think it's like in comparison to other teams, right?
Yeah, well, I think if they get two more wins, they're guaranteed a bye. Because then Minnesota or Green Bay can't possibly catch up.
And see, we need that because our guys got to heal up.
I need a break.
Man, the last game we were missing like all of the defense.
And we still won.
Yeah.
We still won.
Still won, and we're pulling people off the street. Why don't they get me in there?
Wish the Democrats could do that. Wish the Democrats could do that.
Coach Campbell, give me some pads. Let me get in there. Let me get in. I mean, you're just giving people a job.
Got to go walk around Ford Field when you get home, and then somebody will get injured, and Dan will run out of the stadium. I need a guy.
And then I'm in there.
Then you're there. Let's go pad up.
Easy peasy. Anyways, thank you all for listening to this episode. Hopefully we didn't make you feel too doomer.
Yep.
Now's the time to lock in.
Now it's time to lock in, especially lock in and vote. Not vote, but submit your nominations in the various categories for the Hito Award Show. It's literally going to be a banger this year.
Oh yeah, we got our biggest award show yet.
Yeah,
third annual.
A most important year of a lot of the years that have happened recently, and we're gonna make it good. We're gonna make it special.
Yeah. And we got a worst Hito predictions category in there now.
Yeah. So man, was Tucker Carlson? No, Tucker Carlson was last year.
Yeah. Well, last year I was listening back to last year's award show, and we had said that we need a worst Hito predictions category. Oh, yeah. So I was like, well, there you go. I recommended it to myself, so let's add it in.
Exactly. Yes.
But yeah, the reason we said that is because of the Tucker thing.
God, what bad predictions did we make this year?
And you can't. I mean, we never really made an election prediction.
Yeah. Hold on a minute. The pre-election, post-election show, that doesn't count. You can't count anything I said about Ann Seltzer. I was really just repeating what she said.
I was fueled up on hopium and in the liberal spirit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're gonna have to exclude being hopeful about Kamala Harris winning as the worst hit prediction, because I mean that's just a winner, and it's not fair when somebody just runs away with a category.
Yeah, and I was hopeful. You know, that's not me saying she was go. I said all year Trump could win.
Yep.
But I was hoping he wouldn't.
I think I've made other predictions that were bad. So talk about those.
Yeah, maybe something related to like. Probably like some international predictions in there that were immediately proven wrong. I think there was at least a few that we said about a ceasefire that like the next day it was just like, well, I think I can remember like one or two maybe.
Yeah, fuck, definitely something like that.
Hito heads, do your homework. Start thinking. You got a week to submit nominees.
Yeah, we definitely predicted Blishigan, but that didn't. Blishigan
could be on there. I'd accept Blishigan as a nominee. Yeah.
I was riding for Blishigan. I really thought this year.
So start cooking up your nominees. We'll post formally about it on Monday, of course. If you're a patron, you can submit your nominees right now. The form will be open and posted on the Patreon. Everyone else, make sure you get in before Sunday.
Yeah.
Because then we're going to open the voting form.
It'll be good. It'll be a big one. It'll be great. You know, Hito's third award show, Hito's biggest award show ever. That's what I'm saying. That's the kind of energy we're bringing to end 2024 and move into 2025. Stock up on like canned goods, because I'm not going to be able to afford groceries anymore.
Yeah, that's big.
Yes, that's big. Big one here. Extreme couponing is coming back in 2025.
Theft is coming back.
Not from Target though.
There was accusations of like, what was the story we covered about wage theft and like shoplifting and stuff? Like there was I think
there's just like a statistic that goes around that says wage theft is the highest form of theft.
Well,
in the United States.
But it was in the face of, I think, the Walgreens CEO or something saying that they had to close a bunch of stores because of shoplifting, and that ended up just not being true.
Yeah,
we're gonna show them shoplifting. You want to see shoplifting? You're about to find out when my goods go up 300%. You know what I'm saying? Allegedly.
And that's just what happens when you get priced out of the market. I need my treats. I need my trinkets.
I need my treats.
I'm already at the grocery store every week. Like, damn, I want to get this bottle of Coke, but it's $7. So it's not happening.
I mean, they just announced a 3-player Elden Ring game. So like I'm gonna need my treats, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Those are treats that I need. So
3-player Elden Ring game's not a want, it's a need.
It's a need, yeah. No, that's it. If I don't get it, I die.
Yeah. Good thing that's like a digital product though, so hopefully it's not subject to tariffs.
That would be crazy.
Trumpflation.
Yeah. Anyways, that brings us to the end of this episode, and of course we got to thank our beautiful patrons.
Our beautiful, wonderful patrons who are exempt from us being mad at them for no fucking 5-star reviews.
These are people that I would give clemency to.
Oh, 100%. It's that the Patreon list is the clemency list. You got to get on there, so eventually when we win the presidency one day, you're good. You're squared away.
No matter
solid.
what you do, blanket pardon.
Blanket pardon. The last 11 years, there's precedent for that, so that's why. So we got to give a special thanks to Caden Kraut, Lord Tyler Radiant, Chris the Postman, Christy Begg, Dylan B., Andrew Harris, Mike Chaplinsky, El Marzuno, Clayton LaFed, Mark Yeager, Caleb Joy, Rich Toro Tari, Gavin Mayer Maldonado, Hunter W., Fergalaki, Max Vazquez, Jacob Rogers, Colton Mooberry, Fixer Punk, Jim Egbers, Jeff Muzzy, Big Burrito, Cincy Elks, Joe Stenstrom, Adrian Sandoval, Chloe Sam 601, Colleen Cutsver, Yook, Jennifer DeVoe, Big Bird Titty, Crawfishin, Bennington III, Alexi Benatti, Nietzsche, Big Booty Beatdown, Sam Maloney, Two-Headed Boy, Ben Shapiro's boyfriend, Ted Cruz's boy toy, Dictator Jace, Luke O'Shea, Cucker Tarleson, Danielle Jackson, The Word of Microsoft, Jennifer Science, Aaron and his Gundam Gundams, Darth Fodder, Tailored for Content, Corey Chambers, L.E.N., Devin Hatchard, Retro Mondo, Emma the Newslayer, Veronica, a.k.a. V, Raxon, Ass Smith, The Grotler, Flower Clown, Beetlebugs, Murder in a Trench Coat, Lonnie Rogers, Slavic and Sapphic, Casey Lynn Kelly, Snake Eyes and Hope of Giants, A.K. Gon, Zach Lantian, Info Russell, Austin Greif, Marcus Corbett, Caleb Roper, Taylor Rensox, Cammy, Tylen Freeman, Steak Daddy,
Tay, Isaac Hodges, Madeline C, Kayla Lowe, Anna Valinic, Casey C, Say Yes to West, August, Particular Pickman, Sir Capilot, Jeff Sines, Howard the Duck, Brennan is Egg, JR, Drew Batchelder, Froggy Gumdrop, Jackie Boy, Shameless, Coherent Babbles, MJ is Sharp, Michaela Muncie, The Wallace 3000, Jared Finch, Tactical Snowflake, Son of Ander, Vanilla Bryce, Chris T, Kishan Lala, Amanda R, Hanky Panky, Tyler J, Damian Blues, Ashley White, Lalo Valesco, Particulon, Memfrez, Lauren, Unchrasmatic Boar, Sasquatch, Rhonda Stiletto, Midwest Marxist, Joe the Mailman, Gary from West Michigan, Shawnee GG, Juniper Not Jupiter, Stacked Crabs, I Crowley, Urban Peach, Lord of Forlorn, Holt Forsyth, Kevin Kasaya, Schnoodle, Booty Snakes, Erica, Krusty Krab, Do Fairy, Chelceratops, Austin Lima, Lane Waltz, Azim Fida Hussein, Brooklyn G, Noverk the Dastardly, Goldthorn, Eddie Book, Merlin, John from Houston, Anaya, Ian C, Kryl Bongi, That Art Dork, Sergeant Pookie, Connor Nix, Jordan T, Hoodie, Kim Kitsuragi, Rose Grimm, Jamie the Young Extremist, Jack the Heathen, Archer W, Evan Mingo, AJ Torres, Elo Nico, Jake Hall, Julian Castro 2028, maybe IDK, and my mom. Thank you all so much for supporting the show on Patreon.
Yes.
We're grateful.
Yes, folks. And, just you got to keep your names on this list. Let's get them on for another 180 episodes.
That's important.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
really important. Let's get us through the Trump presidency.
Yeah, maybe.
But I do have to announce that prices will be going up 20 to 60%, according to, however much Trump increases tariffs on China, because we do import our takes directly from Xi Jinping.
That's right. That's so important. We get paid for that.
We are registered as foreign operatives. Yeah, so.
And if you listen this far to the end, you must be committed. So just know postcards being sent out in a week.
Yes, they're good ones.
They're really good ones,
folks. They're pretty cool.
But holidays and the incoming holidays, I suppose, got us very busy.
Busy as hell.
A little bit of a delay on the postcards, but they will be coming hopefully in your hands by the end of December, if not early January. You know how it goes, folks. I don't gotta explain myself to you,
guys. It's fucking
whatever,
guys.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Have a great week.